without Paradise increase. Like you can tell, this is max movement speed 244 right there. Hello and welcome to another JMP video. I'm your host JonNario, and today I'll be going over the personal song Bard subclass. So in this video I'm just going to go in depth and just going to be explaining to you how does the subclass work and all that good stuff. But first and foremost, I need to put a little bit of a disclaimer, and I do feel that this is going to be an important disclaimer, so do listen. So this subclass is, my opinion, is going to be one of the better subclass only for very specific people. What I mean by that is just going to be this subclass is one of the few subclasses that actually do gain benefit depending on the powering of the owner. So the higher the powering of the bard, the more benefit that you do get. So I will be explaining to everyone how does everything work out in terms of how much stat that you do gain. But keep in mind, whenever you're using this subclass, this is going to end up being very dependent on the powering of the bard. So I do feel for endgame players, this is going to end up being a really good subclass, and you should keep a close look onto it and just give it a whirl, give it a try. Also, one more thing regarding that is going to be, this is also mainly used for players who are going to end up using movement speed equipment. So if you do have full movement speed gear with a movement speed buff ally, trailblazing, vampire vanquisher, and Paradise, all the movement speed buff, then obviously this is just going to end up being much more beneficial to you because it does grant a lot of percentage increase with this subclass. So now that I put that all out of the way, let's get started with the personal song. So the personal song, what it says right here is going to be: sing yourself a little song. When you head into battle, when attacking, you gain Jubilant, Peaceful, and Battle Song buffs in that order. Pretty simple. It's a pretty easy subclass to explain. So once you do hit an enemy, you're going to get all of the buffs. This is not going to be tied to any chances, similar to the Lunar Lancer or the Candy Barbarian, because those are actual chances. This one is not chances. That's why whenever you do increase the powering of the bard, instead of increasing the chances, you actually do gain the stats, because the chances is always 100%. Now, keep this in mind that regarding this subclass, it's just going to end up working like this. Once it does activate, it will always start out with the Jubilant Song buff, then it will go into Peaceful, then it will go into Battle, always in that order. It's never going to be random, it's always going to end up being that order. Keeping all of this in mind is going to be very beneficial for those who know how to do a lot of momentum building with their character regarding overtime grinding. Now, this Jubilant Song buff is going to be a percentage movement speed increase and a percentage energy regeneration increase. Again, I'm being vague because it's dependent on the power rank. Peaceful Song will grant you a percentage damage lifesteal. So again, similar to like the Vampire Vanquisher or the Revenant's passive ability, it's depending on the damage that you do, that's how much you do get. And then lastly, it's just going to be Battle Song, which is going to grant you an attack speed percentage increase and then a critical damage percentage increase as well. Each of the buff lasts for 3 seconds, and the entire duration of it is going to be 3 seconds Jubilant, 3 seconds Peaceful, 3 seconds Battle, so that means the whole subclass lasts for 9 seconds. The cooldown is going to be 15 seconds, but it will start as soon as you do hit the enemy and the Jubilant Song activates. As soon as the Jubilant Song activates, that's where the 15-second cooldown starts. How much percentage does it grant? So it will start off all the way at 1% across the board. So it will start off at 1% movement speed increase, 1% energy regeneration increase at tier 1 with the Jubilant. Then it's going to be 1% on damage lifesteal on the Peaceful Song, and then it's going to end up being 1% attack speed and 1% critical damage with the Battle Song. But the thing is, it's just going to increase by 2% per tier. So per 5000 power rank interval that you do gain with the Bard, it's just going to keep increasing by 2%, which does cap out at 30,000 power rank, which is tier 7, which is a 14% increase from the start, which is going to end up being 15% across the board, with the exception of the Peaceful Song. So once again, once you do attack the enemy, Jubilant Song will activate. So it means at tier 7, so 30,000 power, which is the limit, you're going to get a 15% movement speed increase, a 15% energy regeneration increase, from both of them. And then you're going to get with the Peaceful Song, you actually do gain a 5% damage lifesteal, which is exactly the same as the Revenant's passive, and exactly the same as Vampire and Vanquisher. And then after 3 seconds of the Peaceful Zone that you do get a 15% increase to your critical damage and a 15% increase to your attack speed for 3 seconds. And then that's pretty much how it does work out. So the reason why this is so good for endgame players is essentially only going to end up being the movement speed increase from the Jubilant Song. So a 15% movement speed increase, it means again it's a percentage increase, so the more that you do have, the more that you do get. So if you're seeing right over here with my Lunar Lancer, I do have 117 movement speed. If I do attack with my basic attack, I actually do gain the Jubilant Zone and I go to 134. So from 117 to 134, that's a 17 movement speed increase. So, and if we move on into another character, which is going to end up being the Fate Trickster, which does have a 99 base movement speed, so it's just going to end up being, once I attack the enemy, I do get increased to 114, which is a 15 movement speed increase, and again a 15% movement speed increase. So now that you know that the more movement speed that you do have, the more movement speed that you do get. So if you're looking on a character like my Knight, which is going to end up going with Trailblazing, Vampire and Vanquisher, and also the subclass, you're going to see something very interesting right over here. So my movement speed is just going to end up being 112 at base. If I go Trailblazing, it goes to 132. If I activate Vampire and Vanquisher, it goes to 152. And if I activate all of that at the same time, it means that my movement speed will go to 175. So it will go to from 152, like you just saw a little bit right now, to 175 movement speed. That is a 23 movement speed increase for 3 seconds. And then if you take into account that I didn't activate ally buffs, which is a 30 movement speed increase, and I didn't activate Pyrodis, which is another 30 movement speed increase, this could actually net you an increase of easily over 30 plus movement speed for 3 seconds on an ability that has technically only a 6-second cooldown. Per Jubilant Song is essentially 12 seconds of cooldown. If we move on into the other subclasses, which is just going to end up being the other subclasses that grab movement speed, which are the Ice Age subclass, there is going to end up being the Candy Barbarian, and also is just going to end up being the Lunar Lancer. So the Lunar Lancer, this is why the Lunar Lancer is just better towards the beginning, because the Lunar Lancer always grants the same amount of stats depending on the power rank of the Lunar Lancer. But if we're going to just do a comparison between this one and the endgame Bard subclass, the Lunar Lancer subclass lasts for 6 seconds and it grants you a 15 increase to your movement speed and a bunch of other stats like a 10% damage reduction, and you know, also the bonus percentage physical damage and magic damage, yada yada yada. But essentially you do get a base movement speed of 15 for 6 seconds. So in paper it looks a lot better, but you have to take into account that the movement speed, it lasts for 6 seconds, but the cooldown is 30 seconds. So, and the cooldown, it starts the same way as soon as you activate the lunacy buff. So essentially you are going to have double the amount of cooldown with a potential half the amount of movement speed with the Lunar Lancer subclass. Now, if you take into account that that is going to end up being the Lunar Lancer subclass, the other one is going to be the Candy Barbarian subclass, which shares a little bit more movement speed than the Lunar Lancer, but the thing is that it lasts for 4 seconds instead of 6. So it lasts for 1 second more than the Bard subclass, while being a 50-50 chance whether you actually do gain the movement speed buff from the red gumdrop or you actually do get from the other candy, which is the healing candy. You actually do have a 50-50 chance of actually getting one or the other. The problem being is that you can easily just get multiple times the healing candy, which is just going to end up being a wasteful since this cooldown is also 15 seconds. Now, let me go into Uber 10 so you can actually just see, let's just go Uber 8, it's the same thing. But you can actually just see how much movement speed do you actually do get if everything does activate, if I manage to get everything does just proc. Once again, my base movement speed maximum is 112. With all of the movement speed buff, which I did mention in my movement speed maximizing video, with all of the movement speed buff, my maximum movement speed is going to end up being 212 movement speed without the subclass. So it's going to end up being plus 100 because it is plus 30 from the ally buffs, plus 20 from Trailblazing, which is 50, plus 20 from Barbarian Vanquisher, which is plus 70, and then plus 30 from Pirates, which is, plus 100. So my base movement speed is going to end up being a 212 without the subclass. If you do take into account the subclass, let's see if I can actually do activate it.
Wow!
And as you saw for a little bit, it was 244 movement speed. It was kind of difficult to actually just see because obviously it lasts for 3 seconds, and just going into this menu and just checking the movement speed, everything within 3 seconds while everything activates at the same time. It was pretty difficult, not gonna lie. But either way, I went over 244 movement speed with the knight. So I went from 212 at my maximum to 244, which is going to end up being 32 movement speed increase with this subclass alone, which is slightly more than Pirates and the ally buffs. And it's going to activate like all the time, and you literally are going to see that you will be moving really fast like all the time. And someone got a gun, that GG on that dude. Yeah, essentially it's just going to be a really good subclass because it's going to proc literally all the time. You are literally going to notice it like every single time, just activate it over and over again. And then it is just going to end up being really powerful. I have been using this with my knight, and I have noticed that the movement speed is just incredibly good because you notice like a big boost in your movement speed because it activates all the time alongside all of that. It's like, imagine always running with something like Pirates all the time. So yeah, that's essentially what it feels like every 12 seconds. It's just going to end up being a movement speed increase similar to Pirates, and obviously without Pirates increase, like you can tell, this is max movement speed 244 right there. So yeah, you're literally going to end up seeing that you will be moving really fast, and especially if you do dungeons really quickly, like right here, you complete a dungeon really quickly, just move out of the dungeon. Let's just say you kill an enemy, you gain the movement speed buff from the from the subclass, and then you go into the next dungeon much quickly. And it's going to end up proccing essentially all the time. Like you can proc that really frequently because 12 seconds just go by really quickly, but at the same time 3 seconds is more than enough for you to actually gain from one dungeon to another, which again, that's why it makes this subclass so good for those who just use speed farming. And I'm not counting all of the other stats that you actually do get, like the energy regeneration, like the damage lifesteal, which essentially just grants you a lot of survivability, but it generally doesn't matter a whole lot if you do have Barbarian Vanquisher, because it generally does the same thing. It does stack, but it generally does the same thing. And the critical damage is going to being helpful, like for those who cannot one-shot, it's going to end up being helpful, but if you're end game and just be farming like crazy, then it's not going to matter as much. But the movement speed increase is something very nice that you need to keep in mind all the time. And if you do have a 30,000 power rank bard, keep this in mind. Use this subclass and let me know what you think. So thank you for watching. Thank you for taking as always. That's going to end up being this subclass. Next time I will be doing in-depth on the bard. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for taking as always. Leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and I hope to see you guys next time. Take care and keep on hunting, and let me know in the comment section down below what do you think of this subclass. See ya.